I think a lot of people watch the video and they say, well, how do we know she really heard, she knew you guys said Jesus is Lord?
Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally.
1000%. She, on video, she does a little, and then she waves. She pans to her right. I'm on her left. She's looking directly at us. We're about 25 yards away from her. I held up this cross. I took it off. I unclipped it around my neck. I held it up in the sky. I pointed to the cross. I waved to her and then pointed back. And that's when she did that and then waved. She looked directly in my eye. We didn't mean to go viral. We were simply there in that moment in time. We listened to her speech and something came over us that abortion is wrong. And that's when we said what we said.
You wouldn't call yourself an activist or a protester or an anti-abortion activist, or would you?
There is a time in our country where abortion was the last option and very, very rare to have. It should be last resort. It should be, to save a mother's life or something along the lines of that. It should not be celebrated. What I see on the college campus, liberals tend to fight harder than Republicans in terms of getting votes.
This has been quite an interesting election cycle. There have been more mentions of God and Jesus, perhaps than any time in recent memory. And part of the reason is because of an interaction with Vice President Kamala Harris in Wisconsin earlier this month, and her reply to a couple of young men in the audience who shout, "Jesus is Lord."
As he intended. Jesus is Lord.
Now, what makes the timing of this particular incident, which has gone to trend on social media and online millions of times over, is that it's right in the heart of a time when the Harris campaign kicked off an initiative, Souls to the Polls. She has more recently shared her story about her pastor and prayer. Now, among the majority of Americans, 2/3, according to Gallup, who consider themselves Christians, there has been talk about whether or not Vice President Harris, the Democratic nominee for president, has a genuine faith. And then there are conversations about what she really has stood for. But one thing we do know, she has a very strong party platform for reproductive rights, abortion.
And again, we're not going to be gaslighted on this. We remember Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade, and they did as he intended. Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally.
At this particular event, where 2 young men shouted, "Jesus is Lord, Christ is King," there was another woman there, an outspoken Republican. She had her phone on. She was rolling a video when she captured the moment and posted it online.
Not a lot of energy here, but everyone just cheered and screamed for killing babies. So that was disappointing. Anyway, here she is.
Now, once people saw this video that Jennifer McKinney shared online, viewed millions and millions of times, there were people who cheered on Vice President Harris for responding the way she did to those 2 young men. And there are others who cheered the young men because they were being bold in their faith. But this became quite a touch point and is still trending as all kinds of people have posted videos in response. And one of the things that came out in my conversation with Jennifer and with one of the young men is that people of different political opinions, Americans, should be willing and able to go to whatever political campaign rally they want. And that perhaps that will help to end the division, the divisiveness, by being more welcoming. Jennifer, thanks for making time.
Hey, Adrienne, thanks for having me.
Why did you go to the Harris campaign rally in La Crosse, Wisconsin?
So I have 5 teenagers. My 2 oldest are first-time voters for this presidential election. And we had gone to the Trump rally in town here at the end of August. And to be totally honest, when we found out Kamala was coming that morning, I texted my oldest son and told him, he's like, we should go and just check it out. To be honest, we wanted to see the differences between the rallies.
And then at one point you turned the phone on yourself and were going to capture something you could post later on Instagram, correct?
Yes, there was a time when Kamala began speaking about Roe versus Wade and abortion and some different things about Trump, and the most cheering the entire evening came from making fun of Donald Trump, and then even more so for a woman's right to choose, or essentially for abortion. Everyone just cheered really loud for abortion, so that was disappointing. And then I thought, while I had the recording going, I would just pan to the crowd a little bit so that you could also kind of see the scene. And that was when the boys shouted, "Jesus is Lord." And Kamala said, "I think you're at the wrong rally." And I stopped recording, and that's how I caught it.
Not a lot of energy here, but everyone just cheered and screamed for killing babies. So that was disappointing. Anyway, here she is.
You actually had a chance to meet those young men. You didn't know them before the event, but from what you witnessed to the time when you actually were able to interact with them, what had gone down?
When I first posted that, before any of the regular news had the actual audio or video from her campaign, I was already getting asked, well, who said that? I have no idea, but well, was that really said? It was definitely said, but there was some questioning, Adrienne, right? Like, well, is that really what they said? Or did you dub that in? I don't know how to dub things in videos. So then there was one point when someone from the news reached out and said, well, do you know who that person was? Can you get us in touch with them? No. So I'm just sharing it and wanting at this point for believers to just hear it for themselves. I'm actually not here to say, vote for Trump, don't vote for Kamala, or whatever, or tell you how to do anything. I want people to be able to get all the information, not disseminated or covered up or pieced together, that is out there. And I thought, this is a clip that probably will never get seen unless I share it. So it started to go really viral really quickly.
How many people have viewed your video since you posted it online?
That I know of, we were at 45 million. Wow. Yesterday. I haven't checked yet today.
Why do you think this was such a big deal?
What it ended up that we had in common was we both had a visceral reaction to hearing the vice president say that about the unborn, and then to having this crowd cheer the way they did. And I think it just happens that that was such a moment, and for Americans to be able to see that and really hear, I think, how she feels, how Kamala feels and what she thinks has opened a lot of eyes. And I think that's one of the reasons it's been going so viral.
But I mean, again, I think a lot of people watch the video and they say, well, how do we know she really heard them say Jesus is Lord? But the fact that they said it and the response from the podium certainly touched a nerve. I mean, you see it all over the internet right now. There are people from every walk of life, from every race and creed and ethnicity, responding to her reaction, maybe seeming smug or dismissive is the right adjective, after one of the young men shouted, "Christ is King," and then another shouted, "Jesus is Lord." Mm-hmm. But we don't know if she really heard him say Jesus is Lord, right? Let's bring in Luke right now. Luke, can you hear me?
Yes, am I good here?
Thanks for jumping in on the conversation. I know you've been making your rounds, having interviews and conversations about this, trending moment online that tens of millions of people have seen, and people like Jennifer captured on their phones. And so why was it important for you and your friend to shout at that Harris campaign event on campus in La Crosse, Wisconsin? Why was it crucial for you to say, "Christ is King, Jesus is Lord" at that moment?
So I guess we'll start to when she was talking about abortion. She got a large uproar from the crowd. And as Christians, me and Grant, I can speak on our behalf, and I can speak on a lot of Christians around the world. We do believe abortion is a sin. It's in Scripture. It's in Psalms. But when she said that, she was getting an uproar, and I personally don't know why. I think it was just kind of just the Holy Spirit taking over. I mean, obviously we were there for a reason. If she didn't record this video, all of the headlines would have been Kamala kicks out anti-mega fascist or mega fascist, because that's what the headlines were. And then the next day, the truth did come out of what we did say. And I guess our message to the crowd and to Kamala in general was, you might get away with it now, but in the end, every knee will bow and every tongue shall confess that Christ is Lord, whether you believe it or not. And, we might not see that you have an abortion, but, one man does, and that's Jesus. And there is a time in our country where abortion was the last option and very, very rare to have. But ever since then, since I've been alive, it's been kind of, it's weird because we had a lot of conversations in line with people that just kind of celebrated it, and it's disgusting. It should be last resort. It should be, to save a mother's life or something along the lines of that. It should not be celebrated. And there's a quote I read the other day that has resonated with me. I read it before the rally. It says that abortion is the death penalty for somebody else's mistake. And I truly do believe that.
You're in the demographic of people who tend to vote Democratic, who would tend to be at this Harris rally and be cheering with the people who are there. Why have you decided to go the opposite way?
I think it's my relationship with the Lord, and I think everything I do in my life is centered around my faith. And every decision I make, what I'm doing on the weekends, what I'm doing in my day-to-day life, how is this going to make me a better person? How is this going to, grow me with my Lord Jesus? And I guess that's just what inspired me to do my actions, and that's why I went to a crowd that most of them don't, respect, or Kamala obviously doesn't respect my faith, and that's why I was there.
So you believe that when she responded in that dismissive tone that people are describing, that smug reaction, that she actually heard what you guys said? She knew you guys said Jesus is Lord.
1000%. She, on video, she does a little, and then she waves. She pans to her right. I'm on her left. She's looking directly at us. We're about 25 yards away from her. I held up this cross. I took it off. I unclipped it around my neck. I held it up in the sky. I pointed to the cross. I waved to her and then pointed back. And that's when she did that and then waved. She looked directly in my eye. Whether she heard it or not, it seems like she heard it. It's not a big venue. There's 2,500 people there, and it was pretty dead silent. Even the news broadcast picked it up, which was surprising, but I can 1000% testify that she did hear us, and she was looking specifically at Grant and I when she made those comments.
I can tell you that I'm very certain that she heard it, and I'll tell you a couple of reasons that I know this. First of all, there had been conversation from the crowd back and forth all evening.
And Wisconsin, and we're not going back, because this election,
we couldn't really hear Mark Cuban, and somebody shouted out, "Get closer to the mic." And so he leaned in and got closer to the mic.
Oh, you can't hear me? You can't hear me as loud as I am, and you guys can't hear me? Is that better?
They had been talking about Trump as the Grinch who stole Christmas, and there was conversation back and forth. And as you can hear in the video, I was up in the balcony, the running track. The boys were on the ground not that far from the vice president. And if I picked it up, not only with my camera, but with my ears, I know we all felt it, because the entire crowd cheered at what she said. And again, her response wouldn't have made sense unless she heard what was said. Do we know? Absolutely no. Does all evidence point to it? Yes. And I've been gaslighted already many times for the video being fake or taking out of context or editing it. But I will say I'm unfortunately used to it. That's how believers and sometimes the right are treated. We're gaslit and told that what we're seeing and experiencing didn't really happen. But I know what I saw, and I know what I experienced, and I know that she heard it.
You've said the term believers a few times in our conversation, and I just want people who are watching, can you just define what believers means to you, and what the name of Jesus means to you in context of this conversation and what's become, again, a clip that millions and millions of people are watching.
Right. So a lot of people use the word religion, and that's not one of my favorite words. I don't consider myself religious. I think there are some issues with the structure of religion and the things that has taken on to mean. And so I like to use the word believer. And what I mean when I say that is somebody who believes in and loves Jesus Christ as the one true God. And the name of Jesus, what that means, it is meant to be speaking truth and love over people. And I love when it's used in a way of love. And sometimes it doesn't feel like love. Sometimes it feels bold when people who do believe in Jesus feel called to speak against something that they know is not for Jesus. In this example, the acceptance of killing unborn babies. And now you look at where we are at this day and age, where not only is it accepted, it is celebrated. Abortion is almost used as women's empowerment. It's equated to that. So in that way, I'd like to go back.
What do you tell people who say, why would you even go to the rally? We respect your right to your opinion, and obviously it's a country of free speech. Why was it important for you both to be there?
I feel like we were sent there as disciples to bring traction on abortion. And abortion is a huge issue, and it's something Christ didn't stand for, and he won't stand for now. And it was to deliver a message, like I mentioned before, that, you might get away with it now, but, there's one man watching has the final say in everything. That's God. So,
were you a Republican before this?
I went to the town hall for Donald Trump about 6 weeks ago here as an undecided voters town hall. We had really good conversations with Trump supporters about why he deserved a vote. So that's why Grant and I went to this one, the Kamala Harris rally. We had really good conversations with Kamala supporters about why she deserves our vote, why we shouldn't vote for Trump. And I went into the town hall to Trump undecided. Since then, I was leaning more right, but very open-minded to other people's opinions. And I guess I was on the Charlie Cook show the other day, and he asked, or actually I told him that he was kind of the reason why we were there. And there's a viral clip of a woman on a college campus asking him, why are you here, Charlie? And he goes, when the two sides don't speak and all they do is hate each other is when civil war starts. And that really stuck with me. It's stuck with me ever since. And I think it's really important to talk to the other side, whether you're Democrat or Republican, to hear them out and bounce ideas off each other. And that's what we were doing.
So do you think that when you shouted out Christ is King, Jesus is Lord, did that create an opportunity for conversation, or did it create an opportunity for backlash for people who think like you?
I think it created an opportunity. Grant and I weren't there for publicity. We don't have videos on our phone. Grant has about a 10-second video that we've never shared to anybody, and it's just him recording for his safety. We didn't mean to go viral. We were simply there in that moment in time. We didn't come in with this is what we're going to say to Kamala. We're going to say this, we're going to say that. No, we listened to her speech, and something came over us that abortion is wrong. And that's when we said what we said. And I think it's an opportunity for Christians to look at that video, look at Kamala Harris's actions within these last weeks and what she's done to Christians. I just saw yesterday Vance and Trump commented on the issue, and they said they're welcome at their rallies. All I ask for my Christian family is to not compromise their faith and morals for a woman that does what she does and has those actions.
And so just to clarify, what does Vice President Harris do to Christians?
She alienates them. She alienated Grant and I out of the rally. There's a lot of people say that we were walking out. Of course we were walking out. We were getting yelled at by 15 people. Grant got assaulted twice, one on camera, one off camera. I had to tell a woman to get off of him. But on our way out, not even 5 seconds go by, and there's three people with badges saying that we're unwelcomed and we're uninvited to this event.
And you guys walked in, you wouldn't call yourself an activist or a protester or an anti-abortion activist, or would you?
Not really. I mean, obviously we fight Grant and I want to fight for the unborn and the innocent, but I don't consider myself a political activist of any means. I was there to hear her and talk to her supporters and spark up good conversation.
What do you think is happening? Do you notice a change in younger people, Gen Z? I don't like to ever put really too many labels on it, but people that are between the ages of, like, say, teenage and 25. Is there something stirring in this generation that we should all be paying more attention to?
This generation is is voting more than I think people think, and there's more, at least for my generation, what I see on the college campus. Liberals tend to fight harder than Republicans in terms of getting votes. They do more things on campus to get attention. There's very few Republican like tables that I see walking on campus talking about their views. And to be honest, a lot of Republicans on my campus, I would say a majority of my friends are Republicans. They're not treated with the same respect that I see liberals treated with. And I think that's an issue. But I think as far as my generation, I think Christians are going to vote this election. And I do think Christians are taking a stand for what they believe in my age.
What do you hope is achieved as a result of so many conversations, so many people viewing this video? What do you want to have happen next?
Like I said, our message was to proclaim the gospel and just a simple message that Christ is Lord. That's what we said. We didn't expect Kamala to even respond to us. We just wanted to spread the message. And unfortunately for her, she responded with one of the worst possible things you could have said and basically kicked us out of her own rally. So I guess I want Christians to see that, the words Jesus Christ are the most powerful words in human history. Demons tremble in their fear when they heard those words. And I know that Donald Trump has said those words. I've never seen Kamala say those words. I could be wrong, but I do hope that Christians hear Grant and I's story and see the video and see that Kamala is not who she says she is, and she alienates us and disrespects our faith.
What do you want to be after graduating? I mean, are you going to go into seminary?
I've never thought about it. I've been told by my mother's friends that I would make a good priest. I don't know if that lifestyle is for me or not. I think it's up to God. I'm currently in school for business management and finance. I've had people reach out talking about maybe post-college, get into politics. I don't know if I want to do that. I think I'm just going to let God make the decisions for me and go from there. I graduate in 2 years, so we'll see what happens from then. I hope that you guys hear from me again.
Well, yeah, you sound like you have a lot on your mind and on your heart to offer the world in terms of your destiny and purpose. And your parents, are they politically active?
My father passed away 2 years ago, but he was a
I'm sorry.
Republican.
Mhm.
My mom, but they're not politically active. She doesn't watch the news. She said in a text yesterday, she's like, to my brother and I in our group chat, she says, "I'm very, very proud of your faith, that your father has inspired you. I struggle day to day, but you guys inspire me." And then she said, "Well, why can't you guys clean your room?"
That
Yeah,
sounds like a mom.
yeah, but she's not very politically active as well. I think she's voted Democrat before. I also think she's voted Republican, but
Okay.
I found these views on my own, and I'm inspired by my late father and
Mm.
mainly his faith.
It is so hard to lose a parent. And I'm sorry for your loss. And Jennifer, just one last word from you as a mom. These two young men are your son's age. What you're seeing happen in America, the response to this kind of a video, and the fact that we're mentioning Jesus and God so much this election cycle, what would you say is happening?
I think it actually can make people on both sides hopefully really look at their faith and their heart and what really matters, and not about Republican versus Democrat, and decide that way. You had asked earlier, do you think that you shouting that out, created conversation? Luke and I were talking before this that we had conversations at the rally. Now, at that moment when that was shouted and they had to leave, the conversations then were done, and they were just beginning. with millions and millions and millions of Americans talking about this now and talking about Jesus and where the believer vote should lie, which I do believe is not with her, that is unexpected and powerful, and I think providential. I'm very, very, very proud of them, and I hope that they inspire their peers to stand up and vote and speak out about what they believe.
Well, certainly this is a generation that is saying, I'm going to make up my own mind. And you heard that right there from Luke. And we want to thank both of you for joining us for One Nation Under God. Be well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adrienne.
Now, of course, both political candidates have talked about faith, and there are plenty of people who've questioned whether or not the Republican nominee for president, former President Donald J. Trump, is himself Christian enough or has an authentic faith of his own. He responded to the Jesus is Lord moment recently with leaders, faith leaders in North Carolina, and also Senator J.D. Vance, his running mate, had something to say as well.
But while Kamala says that people who believe in Jesus don't belong to her rallies, you have to remember that that's as loud as it can be. In fact, a lot of people said that would be disqualifying for her. That would be a disqualification. In our movement, we love Christians, we welcome believers, and we embrace followers of Jesus.
And I say this as a Christian, as a person who was baptized for the first time just a few years ago. There is something really bizarre with Kamala Harris's anti-Christian rhetoric and anti-Christian approach to public policy. I don't think that we've, that's right, Jesus is king, and I don't think that we've seen... I don't think that we've seen anything like this in modern American politics.
Now, from what we can find out here at NewsNation, Vice President Harris hasn't responded directly to any criticisms of how she came across to those two young men after they shouted, Jesus is Lord. No real response at all, except for the posts on social media by Kamala headquarters, her Harris campaign Twitter account or X account. But she has been continuing her initiative, Souls to the Polls, specifically speaking to Black voters, Black Christian voters in America about the need to get out the vote early. She's attended a Latter-day Saints for Harris events as well. One thing that came up with the young man in that audience at the Kamala Harris rally in Wisconsin, he shared with me that it seems that a lot of the conversation among different people, culture, is telling younger people what to think. And I asked him, I said, do you feel like part of the reason why you needed to go to this rally and be in the audience and say and do what you did was to kind of make a statement and say, I'm not going to let you tell me what to think? And he said, yes. He says, no one can cancel me but Jesus. And he doesn't want to have a fear of submitting to a prevailing response in culture. He also said that when he got to college, he noticed that a lot of students, they were into the party scene, drinking, drugs, and he happened to do some research. He found out that 80% or so of students raised in Christian households end up walking away from their faith in college. There are statistics that actually support those numbers, 70 to 80% historically. Stop going to church, stop reading their Bible, stop practicing. And he said that he identified as a Christian, but he wasn't acting like a Christian. And so there's been this impetus for him to feel more closely tied to a relationship with God and what he believes in. It's something that I thought was very interesting and maybe relevant to this conversation as we examine shifts in society. And a lot of people, not just young men, not just college students, but many Americans saying they don't want anyone telling them what to think. Thanks for joining us for this episode of One Nation Under God. Remember, we love to hear from you. Keep the comments kind. We'd love to see those here on our YouTube channel. And we'll have another episode for you up next week. See you soon. Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.